Hi, my name is Ravi Prakash, and today I would like to talk about cloud computing. So, the basic purpose of cloud computing is to provide a variety of computing resources from servers and storage to enterprise applications such as email, security, backup, disaster recovery, and all delivered over internet. The cloud delivers a hosting environment that is immediate, flexible, scalable, secure, and available while um, saving corporations money and time and resources too. Uh, so, when it comes to cloud computing, there are some guidelines that we would need to follow, and the National Institute of Standard and Technology has defined cloud computing as a model for enabling ubiquitous, convenient, on-demand network access to a shared pool of configurable computing resources such as networks, servers, storage, applications, and services that can be rapidly provisioned and released with minimal uh, management effort or service providers interaction. Cloud computing is a set of service-oriented architectures which allow users to access a number of resources in a way that is elastic, cost efficient, and on demand. So let's talk about the essential uh, characteristics of cloud computing. So the first one is on-demand self-service. Um, a consumer can unilaterally provision computing capabilities as needed automatically without requiring human interaction with each service provider. And its benefits are decreased provisioning time, uh, resulting in reduced lead time, instant gratification, reduced context switching, deploy faster and iterate faster, cost saving due to efficiency of automation, faster, rapid prototyping and low risk experimentations. And then we have resource pooling. So basically, resource pooling is the grouping together of resources for the purpose of maximizing advantage and minimizing risk to the users. And it applies to all layers of the stack, like every application in the cloud. And its benefits are access to more virtual computing resources, cost reductions resulting from increased utilization, uh, economies of scale, that is shared hardware, software, licenses, and labor costs, uh, and then geographic availability. It is available globally for deployment of resource pools. Resource pools can be combined. Um, Now, going to the next one, we have rapid elasticity. So, basically, it refers to scalability, and that is the ability of applications to accommodate more load, and it's a measure of how an application will respond when adding more resources. Um, Also, it refers to a platform adapting to increasing and decreasing utilization by rapidly expanding and shrinking computing capacity for a given application or service. And the benefits it has, like application can easily be scaled up and down by to respond load changes. Cost reduction, consumers only pay for the services and capacity used. consumers don't pay for turned off services or deallocated capacity, and even, of course, unutilized space or storage. Right sizing application infrastructure and streamlining development, and also it provides incremental capacity at incremental cost only for the duration of time that is needed. The expense is linked to outcome of the service. And then we have measured service. So basically, cloud systems automatically controls and optimize uh, resource use by leveraging a metering capability at some level of abstraction uh, appropriate to the type of service, storage, processing, bandwidth, and active user accounts. And its benefits are, I mean, as the name says, pay per use, reduced upfront costs. Uh, okay. Now let's talk about the capabilities of cloud computing. The first one here is ubiquitous access. That means the user can access any service from any platform or device on a web browser. Um, in current world, every bit of information can be made accessible from any device that has internet. Second is elasticity, ability to handle sudden load change. Third one is location independence. That is, it allows users to access services and information assets from anywhere without needing to know their physical location. And the next one is cost reduction. So it lowers capital and operational costs as we have to pay per use. Virtualization, physical location and underlying infrastructure details are transparent to users. And we have efficiency. So service-oriented architecture for dynamic provisioning of shared compute resources. And now we have flexibility. So it can serve a variety of workload types like um, both customers and commercial. Okay. Now let's talk about the value proposition of cloud computing. So cloud computing supports enterprises digital initiatives by enabling access to utility-based computing abilities. So that has like cost reduction, and basically that involves lower capital and operational costs. We have to pay per use, economies of scale. We have let's say if we have to start a business, we don't have to pay upfront for the cloud. And next we have speed to market. So that is nothing but reduction of time to pilot and test projects, and it can be leveraged across geographies. It can be readily available to customers on demand. Then we have agility. So that includes productivity and speed, deploy faster, iterate faster, uh, react faster to changing business needs, just like elasticity. Um, and then infinite computing capacity. So it can be increased up to like there is no limit for that. And then we have elasticity and scalability. So that is capacity only when we need. uh, Ability to handle sudden load changes. It can shrink, and then it can expand based on the need and the load. So but however, with cloud we have a lot of um, disadvantages too, and also I would not say disadvantages, I would say concerns. So like we have less control over our infrastructure in cloud. So that is basically it is exposed to everybody on internet, and whoever has access to internet can access it if they gets a handle. And then reliability. So cloud has dependency of connectivity basically. So if somebody has to get any information from cloud, they will be like depending they would be dependent on the internet connection, of course, in the cloud infrastructure as well as from the user's perspective. And then we have compliance. So all the data or information that we are storing in cloud will be should be actually compliance to all the rules and regulations which um, uh, the country or the region where the cloud is located has in place. So uh, like the European Union, they have separate set of rules for their users who access their information or share their information to cloud. Uh, so you must all be knowing about the GDPR. So they have certain sets of rule in place for cloud providers, that they can share the user data um, based on those rules. Then we have readiness. So basically cloud, when we are moving to cloud, we'll have to make sure that it is readily available to users. And then we have trust. So this is basically a concept, I would say, that we have trust to ensure that what we are having in cloud is capable of delivering the purpose. And then we have data security. So that is, I mean, data security is of paramount importance. So basically whatever you are sending is accessible to everybody when it comes to I mean if somebody gets leverage to the data, they can use it um, uh, to harm an organization or an individual, both financially or the status as well. Okay, and of course the security management gets divided on cloud. So the cloud provider will have uh, his own set of security management um, portfolio, and also the infrastructure owner will have their own sets of security management uh, rules. Okay, now let's talk about the financial implications about cloud computing. So, most of the companies today spend roughly around 80% of their IT budget on operations and maintenance, and that is a huge cost. So, when we move to cloud, that is going to reduce it uh, up to 50%. Uh, like it will reduce the deployment time, it will reduce the operation, it will reduce the cost of support. Um, Also, it will reduce the facility cost, network cost, software and hardware cost. So altogether, cloud will reduce the labor cost, and of course, the cloud will reduce other infrastructure and operational cost. That involves facilities, network, hardware, software maintenance cost, and overall, going to cloud would be beneficial. Okay, now let's talk about the cost of ownership. So, um, like based on the mm, ballot online's management guidelines, we have software cost with 9%, technical support 14%, capital 12%, and then implementation 10%, with maintenance 21%, and then end user operations 34%. We have more major part in end user operation because uh, the services Ballot Online provides would be basically used by voters, and that is completely, related to user experience. So we have a large portion for that, for user operations. Okay. Now let's talk about the surplus, because a lot of companies right now, they end up spending more money on infrastructure and applications than they should actually. So with the graph, you see um, all the portions above the forecasted infrastructure demand line. So these are all surplus. So basically, these surpluses are uh, uh, caused by not fully or efficiently use of the resources, and that's why the organizations end up paying more. Okay, now let's talk about the actual infrastructure demand. So the actual infrastructure demand will never be constant. It will keep fluctuating from the highest to the lowest whenever there is a need of, I mean, more work or more users or more load basically. So it would never be same. It will keep on fluctuating from highest to lowest. And let's talk about the unacceptable surplus based on the actual infrastructure demand. So let's talk about a data center that Ballot Online has. So basically, uh, the demand of users um, forces the infrastructure to grow larger. So let's say if at a certain time when we have a lot of voting process going on, there will be a lot of voting activities which will demand more infrastructure and applications, servers, storage, and everything. So and after that point of time, the demand for services will gradually decrease, because at some point we're going to have very less voting activities going on. So that the difference between the cost at the voting, when it is high, and the voting when it is low, that is the surplus we are talking about here. And that is something all the organization wouldn't like to incur. Okay. And on top of the surplus, we have deficit. So these deficits are nothing but um, all the resources at the point where the demand is more, and when we don't have those resources allocated for that particular activity. So these deficits are nothing but a loss to business, because Ballot and Online wouldn't be able to um, provide that many services and able to hold the load for that high period, uh, as it would not be able to deploy services and everything at that peak time when the services are needed. Okay. Now let's talk about strength, weakness, um, and let's talk about strength and weaknesses. So basically, strength with cloud is it is cost effective, it is elastic, it can be expanded based on the need, and it has ubiquitous access, energy efficient, of course. And when it comes to weakness, we have already discussed few of them. So that is like internet access is required. It has less control over physical location of the data. Migration to cloud requires trained employees, of course. a major portion of Ballot Online employees will have to be trained to manage cloud activities, and there are some hidden costs. But that hidden cost is again, it is there with the on-prem applications too, and that is nothing but backup, disaster recovery, and security. But yeah, when it comes to security on cloud, it would require more than what we have on-prem. Okay, now let's talk about the opportunities cloud provides. So basically, for a starting business, no initial investment is required. It is only we have to pay when we use, and it is more commodified. It is location independence. So basically, anybody can access it from anywhere around the world. It is mostly it is based on virtualizations, and the threats we have with cloud is security, as we discussed just before, and reliability on service provider. So if the infrastructure or application goes down, then we will have to go to the service provider and let them know that we need that service back up as soon as possible. And then we have data loss. Since the data is on cloud, anybody can access it, and if they gets a handle, it is going to damage severely the status as well as the business of Ballot Online. And also, um, the threat we have is for the acceptance or unwillingness to accept cloud. And let's go to the next slide. Yeah. So the opportunity, strength, strategies we have with cloud, that um, that is since it is cost effective and no initial investment is required, any new business can start. As we spoke earlier, ubiquitous access and location independence accelerate speed to market, as we can access service anytime from anywhere. um, Opportunity, weakness, strategies. So that is, since it does not require initial investment and saves money, as um, in many other ways we can use a small portion of that money to hire or train employees. And then ubiquitous access and location independence accelerate grow speed to market, as we can access service from anywhere. Now, there may be some hidden cost, but virtualization also reduces size of data center or eliminate it together, thus saving on repair, replacement, and maintenance of data center, and also on energy spent in keeping it on and cool all the time. Okay, now we have um, strength to avoid threats. So basically, data loss can be avoided by creating backups from anywhere, anytime, as cloud provides ubiquitous access. And then there is always um, doubts in people's mind whenever something new, revolutionary come, be it something uh, basic as electricity and internet, but sooner or later people accept it. And cloud, with so many benefits mentioned above, will be acceptable by one and all. So this is what we discussed earlier about the acceptance and willingness. And now let's talk about threat weakness strategies. So at the number of service provider is increasing in the market, it um, market is very competitive. Therefore, to get more customers, um, service provider all are providing more secure, reliable, and robust services. Um, and there are several risk management tools that we can use. And while training our employees, we can also train them to safeguard data on cloud. So basically, we were talking about social engineering there. And now let's talk about the cloud architecture that we would like to adopt. So this is an overall picture for an deployment model for cloud. So there are several type of cloud services available, such as public, community, hybrid, private, and there are a lot of platforms available, and that is internet as a service, platform as a service, software as a service, which have their own set of benefits and drawbacks, of course. So most of these drawbacks and benefits we already discussed, and this picture is basically to give us a broader understanding over the cloud architecture and its services that it provides. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much. Uh, if you have any questions, please write to me. Thank you again. Goodbye.